working on climate change issues really since 1992, when I worked on the first report the World Bank ever did on the environment for the Rio summit. But climate change was different. Climate change just got worse and worse. It's vital for universities to do their bit in terms of increasing awareness of climate issues, but not enough. We're not there yet. Working on climate change issues really since 1992, when I worked on the first report the World Bank ever did on the environment for the Rio summit. And I did a piece of research at the time which looked at how environmental issues evolve as countries get richer. And what it showed is that for most environmental problems, things got better as countries got wealthier. Some things got worse initially, but then they improved. But climate change was different. Climate change just got worse and worse. And I remember those charts of just carbon emissions going up and up irrevocably. And in my own lifetime, I've seen the consequences of that in terms of, what's happened in recent years with rising temperatures, flooding, fires, weather disruptions. And so for me personally, I feel like I've witnessed this happening in my own life and feel that unless we act, that curve will just continue to go upwards. It's vital for universities to do their bit in terms of increasing awareness of climate issues. And we've done that by embedding sustainability throughout our curriculum. The other thing I'd say is that solving climate change will take action by people across a range of disciplines: economics, law, accountants, scientists, energy specialists, transport specialists, fashion designers, food makers. It really cuts across all these disciplines. And so we need to make sure that people in all of those fields understand the impact on the environment and in their own professional lives can act on it. There is no doubt that young people have played an incredibly important role for raising this on the agenda. We've seen demonstrations around the world. We've seen students being very, very active with their own local politics and putting pressure on politicians to act. So I think they've already done a great deal, but not enough. We're not there yet. We haven't got agreement on actions that would be sufficient to address the challenge. And so I think young people coming together in the run-up to the United Nations Climate Change Conference is really important to maintain the pressure on our political leaders to make the decisions that they need to. There is no doubt that the climate damage that we have has been created largely by the industrial countries and largely by older generations. And so we owe something to younger generations, future generations, as well as those in poor countries who are most adversely affected. That's why the issue of climate finance is going to be central to the discussions at COP26. And, to be frank, thus far, the rich countries haven't delivered enough support, both for helping poorer countries adapt to climate damage, but also helping them invest in a greener future. And so I think for me, whether there is real commitments made for climate finance at COP26 will be essential. Has a hugely important role to play. First of all, the research that we do generates many of the solutions to climate change in terms of new sources of energy, new ways of thinking about transport, new ways of thinking about the incentives and the economic incentives that we can put in place to have people behave in an environmentally sustainable fashion. So I think ideas are a key part of the contribution of universities, and also forging a new generation of young people who will have this embedded in their thinking. It is striking how young people today are so much more environmentally aware than previous generations. But what universities need to do is give them the tools to act on that awareness in terms of analytical tools, research findings, and managerial capacity to manage a just transition to net zero. We now have a really comprehensive program for achieving sustainability at LSE. We've invested hugely in energy efficiency measures for our buildings, such as insulation and LED lighting, and we've installed solar panels on 16 of our buildings in central London. We also purchase electricity, which is 100% from renewable sources, and we've done a huge amount of work to reduce, reuse, and recycle our waste, including changes to single-use plastics and to encourage the use of reusable cups and water bottles. And our students are continuing to work across 13 environmentally themed societies at LSE to come up with new ways that we can do better, including things like promoting a circular economy and reducing food waste. And so it's a dynamic process, and we're keen to do even more. I think how it will feel is that our own environmental footprint will be reduced in terms of any damage that we cause, in terms of energy use, in terms of waste, and everything from how people get transported to the LSE to how they travel and so on. So I think it will be a much smaller negative environmental footprint, but also hopefully a much more positive contribution in terms of research being done by our faculty to generate new solutions for dealing with sustainability, the actions of our own students in their future professional lives, and also finding ways for us to make a positive contribution in our local community. Everything from having bees on our roofs, which we currently have, to thinking about how we can contribute to greening the environment around the LSE. So I'd like to imagine that would be what it would look like in the years ahead.